The woman got a suspicious phone call from her grandson and immediately called the authorities. It's early morning and you wake up to the sound of your phone ringing. At 73 years old, rousing yourself out of sleep isn't as easy as it used to be. Then, you answer the call, with a voice on the other end, claiming to be your grandchild, only something's amiss. This exact thing happened to a woman named Jean Ebbert, but she didn't react the way you'd expect. It was an incredibly strange situation, with plenty of twists and turns along the way. So we hope you're sitting down, folks. Ready? Okay then, let's dive into it. When did this call take place? And where? Well, Jean's phone buzzed at the crack of dawn one day in January 2022. A resident of Seaford, New York, Jean thought nothing of it at first. Who would, in all honesty? So the elderly woman picked up the receiver in her house. Maybe it was a sales call. Or a curious relative checking in. She quickly got her answer, or so she believed, anyway. Looking back on that moment, Jean spoke to Good Morning America in January 2022. She said, "I heard somebody crying on the other end saying, 'Oh my God. I'm in an accident. I thought it was my son-in-law, who's a real comedian. But then he says, Grandma, I need your help.'" From there, Jean learned some additional details. Apparently, the accident came as a result of driving under the influence, and her grandson was now in police custody. That's a lot to process, right? You wouldn't blame the Seaford resident for feeling serious concern. Yet something wasn't sitting right with her. Anyway, once that call came to an end, Jean's phone buzzed a second time soon after. Who could this be? Well, it was a different guy saying he was the grandson's legal representative. He eventually informed her that a figure had been set to bail her relative out of jail, $8,000 exactly. At that point, Jean went on to talk to another person who said he was the bail bondsman. The guy asked if she was on Venmo, the mobile payment service. Assuming that she had an account, he wanted her to transfer the cash across. But the 73-year-old didn't use it, buying her more time. Like we said earlier, Jean was already a little unsure about the situation, yet now the stakes had been raised further. You know, $8,000 isn't just pocket change. So the septuagenarian had a serious decision to make here: should she believe what she was hearing or not? There are lots of people in her age range who can relate. You see, elder scams have been rife across the United States for the past few years. The figures are absolutely staggering, to say the least. It's a real problem. According to the Federal Trade Commission, better known as the FTC, the period between 2015 and the early part of 2020 was especially busy. Yes, during that time, the FTC was notified of over 90,000 cases. We're serious. Holy smokes. And there's no doubt even more on record, as that number only covers a very specific con that's tricked older people. It's referred to as a grandparent scam, and it really is as bad as it sounds. Think about it: if you've got a grandkid and they call you for help, why wouldn't you believe what you're hearing? That's what makes the con so effective. It plays on your emotions and trusting nature. Elder scams in general are like that, but the grandparent examples properly lean into it. Unfortunately, it's a con that's cost people a lot of money down the years. For instance, over the course of nearly 12 months between 2019 and 2020, around 70 elders across the country were tricked by an alleged nationwide scam network. Apparently, their losses totaled roughly $2 million. Oh boy. The AARP website reported that 8 individuals were indicted for this particular crime back in the summer of 2021. But still, we can't imagine how the victims felt while that was going on. It couldn't have been easy, right? Every phone call at home surely would have been met with suspicion. How do these scams actually happen, though? Is it just a case of potluck for the crooks? Or do they target specific people? Well, the latter approach has sadly become a lot easier now, thanks to the widespread use of websites such as Facebook. It's pretty unsettling, to be honest. As AARP noted, the scammers can study a person's account and familiarize themselves with certain information. Then they can call upon that while speaking to the grandparent over the phone. Like we mentioned, scary stuff. On that note, let's switch our focus back to Jean and her calls in Seaford. Incredibly, Jean was on the phone for roughly 3 hours overall, speaking to the trio across various calls. Yet here's where things got very interesting. By that time, the elderly woman had sussed out that everything wasn't as it appeared thanks to a key detail. It was the crux of her previous unease. Yes, Jean was a grandma to numerous kids, including grandsons. But all of the boys were too young to sit behind the wheel. In fact, only one granddaughter was in the right age range to drive a car. No wonder she was so baffled. Mind you, that significant slip-up wasn't the only thing she had to go on. Before her retirement, Jean plied her trade as a 911 operator. If anyone can sniff out a con over the phone, it's a person who likely dealt with stuff similar to that regularly. These 3 guys didn't know who they were messing with. They'd met their match in Jean. Now we can't help but wonder, though, why was Jean still talking to these men? After all, she rumbled the ruse fairly quickly during the various conversations over the 3 hours. Her son was equally curious, with the former 911 dispatcher going into more detail while chatting to Fox News in January 2022. Jean recalled, "I texted my son, oh there's a guy on here who's saying he's my grandson. One of those scammers. And my son's like, hang up, ma. I'm thinking, you're 40 years old. I'm 73, and you're telling me to hang up. And I didn't hang up. I usually hang up." Instead, Jean felt compelled to play along with the ruse. She did her best to sound like she had genuinely fallen for it across the calls, including the chat with her grandson. The Seaford resident even pulled a line that's frequently used in grandparent scams by the crooks. She urged him not to contact. As Jean told Good Morning America, "I played the game. What happened from there, then? Well, the scammers didn't realize that their target was onto them, so they still pressed ahead, asking for the $8,000 bail money. With Venmo off the table, the grandma made a very bold decision. Yep, Jean informed the guy posing as the bondsman that she had $8,000 stashed away in her home. And the 73-year-old pushed for him to collect it in person. I figured, he's not going to fall for that, she said to CBS 2. Well, he fell for that hook, line, and sinker. At that stage, the humor dried up pretty quickly. This wasn't just a case of stringing along some crooks over the phone anymore, one of them was heading to the house. That fact dawned on Jean after the conversation ended, as she reflected on her immediate thoughts with Good Morning America. Jean admitted, "I actually said, was this such a good idea? But anyway, he's coming, so. Don't worry, though, folks. The grandma had no intention of facing this guy alone. She went on to contact the local authorities, and together they plotted a sting operation of sorts. Talk about drama. Without wishing to state the obvious, Jean didn't intend to hand $8,000 over to the bondsman. In its place, she packed a wad of napkins into a paper sleeve to mirror the appearance and feel of money. Pretty clever, right? Anyway, then it was all about the waiting game. Local officers were now positioned in the house, awaiting the guy's arrival. Would he show up? You bet. He strolled across the driveway and knocked at the door, with Jean greeting him. Here's where things took an even crazier turn, though. All of this was captured on her Ring doorbell camera outside. In the footage, Jean passes the paper sleeve to the man, who doesn't check its contents. He responds, "Okay, have a good one," then starts to saunter down the steps. But nothing can prepare him for what comes next. In the blink of an eye, 2 officers bolt out the door and grab him. The officer who reaches the guy first pulls him down on Jean's front lawn. It's a jaw-dropping sight. The septuagenarian then appears once it's all under control, speaking to someone else over the phone. Ultimately, this is what she hoped to get out of inviting him to the house. Catching him in the act. Jean looked back on her actions that day while speaking to Good Morning America. She said, "Maybe they'll realize that they can be scammed too. Because I played the game really well right from the beginning. They believed me hook, line, and sinker." It's hard to argue with her there. The guy who was apprehended was identified as Joshua Estrella Gomez, a resident of Mineola, New York. The authorities accused him of attempted grand larceny in the 3rd degree. And after the drama at Jean's house, he was due to face an arraignment in the early part of February 2022. Meanwhile, Jean attracted plenty of attention off the back of this unbelievable incident. In addition to the coverage from the likes of Fox News and Good Morning America, outlets such as People reported on the story too. Plus, members of her beloved family couldn't wait to see her again. Touching upon the reaction from her nearest and dearest, Jean opened up to Fox News. The Seaford resident said, "My grandkids, they all think I'm great. I went to my granddaughter's basketball game last night and they were like, 'Aw Grandma Jean. You're a star.' That was kind of cute." For as much praise as Jean deserves, though, she doesn't have to be a lone example in fighting back against grandparent scams. Now we're not suggesting that you should copy everything she did that day. But there are signs to watch out for to make scammers easier to spot going forward. As per AARP's website, most of these cons follow the same template. Just like with Jean, a harried individual claiming to be a grandkid will cry for help, whether it's due to legal trouble or a medical emergency. Then a second person might get involved to play the role of an authority figure. Sound familiar? Yet the biggest tell of them all is when talk turns to money. If your grandkid desperately urges you to fire over a certain sum through a credit card or gift card, take it with a grain of salt. The chances are pretty high that someone's trying to trick you. Oh, and keep watch over the time as well. Why's that? Well, AARP revealed that lots of grandparent scams take place in the evening. The belief from the culprits is that their targets will become befuddled and won't question anything due to tiredness. As Jean's story proves, it can also happen in the morning, but it's still something to keep in mind. So what should you do when faced with this particular scam? There's quite a few things, actually. The easiest is fairly straightforward. Cut the call off and contact the person who supposedly spoke to you using their standard number. Assuming they're okay, that'll serve as confirmation of the con. And the same can be said for authority figures. Yes, should your grandkid hand the phone over to a cop, get in contact with the precinct they give you. Double check that an individual with their name actually works there and confirm the other details. It's understandable if this stuff isn't at the forefront of your mind in the heat of the moment, yet it's important to remember regardless. As for Jean, she hoped that her tale might serve as the ultimate warning to those in her age bracket. Speaking to CBS 2, the grandma said, "I feel like so many people fall for this, and you only hear about it on the other end after they've lost $8,000. Maybe we'll hear more stories of triumph thanks to this. You never know."